Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's weekly options watch list. Hopefully, you all had a wonderful weekend and are excited to get back to trading here come Monday. So, before I get into the top 5 stocks that I'm watching for this week, I want to do a quick breakdown of the ES futures here and where we could potentially see this market going this upcoming week. So, I'm actually going to start off here on the weekly time frame. And if we look at these COVID lows to the all-time highs, we get our Fibonacci levels here, and we can see that on this weekly time frame, we did come down and retest that 50% retracement level, which is typically a strong support on the market, is at that level, and that's exactly what happened here. Is we got a strong bounce off of that. We are right at the weekly 8 EMA, which has been rejected previously, as we can see with this candle right here. Went up to it and then completely rejected it. But that week we still had this bearish momentum on the squeeze histogram, to where this week that momentum has now shifted. So what I'll be watching is to see if this momentum into next week can stay yellow, and if we can break above that 8 EMA. And then also with that as well is you're going to look at this 38.2% retracement as well, and if we can break through that, then I think it's a clear path straight to that weekly 21 EMA. Does not mean it has to happen, but that's just kind of what I am watching on that weekly time frame for the ES. Now if we come over to the daily time frame, we can get a better picture here as well. So with that momentum kind of rotating now into losing that bearish momentum, we can see that this nice daily squeeze is setting up as well, which means we could get that next push higher into that weekly 21 EMA, as this could definitely give it that propulsion into that level. We also are getting our first close here since this candle right here back above that 21 EMA. Ideally want to see 2 solid days above that 21 EMA, and then I think that would be a nice trend change. Also, a thing I'd like to see is to make a higher high. So to break out of this previous high right here, that would also show me that the trend is potentially changing and this market could be looking for another move higher. That being said, though, the overall trend right now is still bearish. We have negatively stacked EMAs. We've only had one close above the 21 EMA. As I said, I'd like to see 2, and its structure is in a strong downtrend. That being said, this could potentially have been a bottom once it hit that 50% retracement, so we could get a nice bounce from here. We will have to see where this market will go this upcoming week, but that's the great thing about options, is that we can play them both ways. Now that being said, let's get into the 5 stocks I'm watching for the upcoming week. Some of them are to the upside, some of them are to the downside, just depending on what the market is actually going to want to do. So the first one here is going to be Lululemon here to the downside. So if we zoom in here a little bit, we can see that we're nicely trending lower here. We have our negatively stacked DMAs. We're in a deceleration stage as well, so everything about that is very bearish. Our price action has been holding below that 21 EMA just perfectly. Every time it tries to go above it, quickly rejects it right back down to the downside, and we have a nice daily squeeze that is forming with that histogram still below the 0 line. So everything about this stock does look very bearish, and if the market decides to roll over, this will also follow with it and continue to trade lower. Another thing to look at here, if we look at the weekly time frame, we can see that there is also a weekly squeeze that is setting up very nicely as well, in my opinion. Very similar structure to the daily time frame with our negatively stacked DMAs. And we have a nice weekly squeeze. Yes, it has that bullish momentum, but its overall structure is still very bearish, with it continually rejecting that weekly 21 EMA. So I do think that if it can't recapture that level, it should continue to roll over to the downside as it has done previously. Alrighty, the next one here is going to be Novavax, and this one is also to the downside. This stock has just been slapped around lately, and it is just plummeting to the downside, so very, very bearish stock here. Similar to the other one, we have those negatively stacked EMAs. Price action has rejected these 21 EMAs here before. which means I will be looking for it to push back up to that level to enter a short position due to this one being extremely bearish. I also do like to see that we have the daily squeeze that is setting up with that histogram that is still below that zero line. This one also we can look at the weekly time frame, and we can see that we have had a weekly squeeze now fire to the downside, and typically a squeeze will go anywhere from 5 to 8 bars. So far we have had 5 bars, which means that the momentum to the downside could be kind of drying up, but it also could have potentially around 3 more weeks of selling. So this one, if definitely can see a lot more downside due to that weekly squeeze firing. Doesn't mean it has to, but I do like Novavax to the downside as well. Next one here is going to be Overstock, pretty similar to Novavax here. We're getting that continual rejection of the 21 EMA. Ideally want to see it reject it once again, but this one's a little different where we actually do have nice bearish momentum on the squeeze histogram. Even though the day had a nice push up higher, it's still showing that this one wants to move lower. We also have those negatively stacked EMAs, and we're in the deceleration stage, so everything about this stock is still looking very bearish, and it looks like it is wanting to go to the downside. We can look at the weekly time frame of this one as well, and very similar story to the other ones, where even the weekly time frame continually rejects the 21 EMA, and this one has a nice weekly squeeze that is setting up, and for the life of it, it just can't break out of these yellow bars, and it looks like it's going to start to roll back over to the downside, giving us these nice bearish momentum bars on that squeeze histogram. So this one is looking really solid in my opinion to have another fall to the downside. Alright, and then the next one I got on the list here is actually going to be Starbucks, and this one's going to be to the upside. We can see here we had kind of almost a double bottom back here, and from there it's just been moving higher and higher. And now we have a new squeeze that is setting up with nice bullish momentum here on the squeeze histogram. We're getting closes above that 21 EMA, and we have positively stacked EMAs. This equals a bullish stock. Everything about it is looking like it wants to continue to go in the trend that it already was going in, and that is to the upside. And now if we look at the 4-hour time frame as well, this one has another squeeze on this as well, which is also looking to fire to the upside. Similar to the daily time frame, it has positively stacked EMAs. Price action has had now 2 closes above that 21 EMA, which I like to see, and we have nice bullish momentum on the squeeze histogram. So if you wanted to play this, I'd say look for a reversion back down to the 4-hour mean, and then enter your trade there, and if this 4-hour squeeze can fire to the upside, that will then do the domino effect on the daily time frame to where that daily time frame should also fire to the upside, giving it a nice move higher. Alrighty, and then last but not least here we have Square, and this one is also to the downside, very similar to Novavax and Overstock, the other ones I already discussed, but in an extremely strong downtrend, continually rejecting that 21 EMA. As you can see here, we have those negatively stacked EMAs. Our histogram is below that zero line. I've said it 1,000 times, but that's just the way I trade. This is exactly similar to those other ones. Very bearish stock here. One thing I do also want to note here is on this 4-hour time frame, we do have another squeeze that is forming, and this one's very similar to the Starbucks, but it's just opposite. So that one, you want to see it fall back down to that 21 EMA and then take the entry to the long side, to where this one, you want to see it reject that 21 EMA and take it to the downside. Because its 4-hour time frame is still very bearish as well. We have the negatively stacked EMAs. Price action is sitting right at that 21 EMA, and that squeeze is still below that zero line. So this one, if we can watch its 4-hour fire to the downside, the daily should follow as well. So these are the top 5 stocks that I'm watching for the upcoming week. Hopefully it gives you all a few other things that you can add to your watch list as well. And let's go out there on Monday and start making some money, everybody.